What's up, y'all? Yogi here. So I wanted to talk a little bit about Bitcoin and how it functions as money, at least to me, as well as it being militant. And what does that mean? So Bitcoin functions as money. And what are some of the characteristics with money? It can be durable. How does it last? How long does it last? Without wear and tear. Bitcoin is not going to suffer those same characteristics such as a currency like the dollar that's in your pocket. So it's not going to tear, it's not going to grow mold on it or anything like that. It's digital, and it's backed by cryptography, mathematics, and energy. And so there's not going to be wear and tear like that. It's portable. I can transport it anywhere. It's tiny, so it's data. It's data. It's digital. I can transport my Bitcoin anywhere around the world in my head if I needed to, uh, through the process of the cryptographic C phrases that makes your Bitcoin secure, or my Bitcoin secure. And so these things are very important when, say, you have to leave the country. If you have, say, fiat, you're not going to be able to move large amounts of money uh, across seas, especially gold, right? If you try to transport gold at the airport, say if you have many ounces or, many ounces of gold on you in your luggage, they're going to most likely confiscate it, and they're going to say, hey, you can't, where did you get this gold in one place? And, let me get that gold. So you can't transport gold, but you can transport Bitcoin anywhere. As long as you have the private keys, as long as you have a wallet, you can transport your Bitcoin anywhere. So I like that it's portable. It's divisible, which is another characteristic of money. That means I can send, say the characteristic of a currency, fiat, right? So you have $100 bill, and you also have dollars. You have a $5 bill, etc. So it has some type of divisibility, right? Bitcoin is even better. I can break it down into, so one Bitcoin has 100 million satoshis, right? So within one Bitcoin, we have 100 million satoshis, and each satoshi is money. So I can transport, one, I can send a transaction of one Satoshi, or I can send one Bitcoin to someone. I can send 10 Bitcoin to someone. I can send 100 if I had it. I can send that. So it's very divisible. I can send, as I've done plenty of times, there's a protocol called Cashew. So you can use eCash, sending Bitcoin pretty, privately, right? You can send Bitcoin privately to somebody with no permission, as Bitcoin is intended, peer-to-peer cash system, sending, value across time and space without permission from a third party. So with that being said, I can send 10 Satoshis or 10 sats to someone using the Cashew protocol, which is another protocol within Bitcoin. And, you can't do that with anything else. You can do it. I mean, you can do it with fiat, right? You can give people pennies. They might not think it's valuable or want it because, one, fiat currencies lose value and they depreciate. So, a penny today is not what it was, 20 years ago in the purchasing power. However, with Satoshis actually get more valuable as time goes on. So that's the visibility nature with it. And with, another thing is, it being fungible. So one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin, one Satoshi is one Satoshi. No matter where it is around the globe, no matter how you process it, chop it up, shape it, it's going to be one Bitcoin equals one Bitcoin. One Satoshi equals one Satoshi. So that's great. And it's equal no matter where you're at in the world. And so that's what I like about Bitcoin and its form of money. I think, Bitcoin is a store of value as well. So not only is it money where I can use it, and I use Bitcoin day to day. I use a protocol called Nostr, which is a decentralized social media platform, and I exchange value with people on a day-to-day basis. So I may like someone's note. They might post about Bitcoin, they might post about health and wellness, which I really like, because that's something that I do, right? Being a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner or student of traditional Chinese medicine, so I like that content. I like health and wellness, right? And so I like I might zap somebody, which is pretty much tipping someone, in Bitcoin, which is Satoshi's, that divisible part. I can tip people, 2 sats. You know, that's like the one sat if I wanted to. A very very low value Bitcoin, but that's going to grow in value over time. So, but I use Bitcoin in that way. There's many times where I have exchanged value with one another with my herbal business, Adaptogenic Bliss. I promoted my product. They wanted some energy, they wanted stress relief. Gave them an adaptogen and in teas, and they paid me in Bitcoin. So this is circular economy that Bitcoin is being used. You can use Bitcoin as a form of money. You just have to have someone who's willing to exchange it for it. If they want a product, or if I want a product and I have Bitcoin and they have Bitcoin, or vice versa, you can make that exchange without permission with anyone. I don't have to ask PayPal, I don't have to ask Venmo, Cash App, my bank, Zelle. Many times when I try to make this value across someone, especially someone that you don't know. You know how your bank acts, when you're trying to use Zelle, right? When you're trying to use Zelle, they'll ask for the email, their phone number or whatever, the contact information, and say, hey, do you know this person? Or Cash App, they'll say, do you know this person, before sending. One, they do that for obviously security, making sure but what if you want to be private with your transaction, and they could deny that transaction, right? They can say, hey, we don't know this person, Joe Smo they could be from Uganda somewhere, we don't know this person, we're going to deny this transaction. You cannot send them money, you cannot send them value. However, when you're using Bitcoin, as I've done on and off Nostr, I can transact with someone in the form of money with no problem, right? I can send them Bitcoin, they can send me Bitcoin for my product, and vice versa. I bought maple syrup online using Nostr. My neck is kind of itchy. I bought some maple syrup online. I bought many healthcare products online, paying with Bitcoin. Even this hat right here, I bought it from a Bitcoin website in the Fed. I paid in Bitcoin. So you can use Bitcoin as a form of money, as Satoshi Nakamoto intended. Peer-to-peer cashless system, right? Peer-to-peer. I send value to you and vice versa with no permission from a third party, like a bank. Like I said, bank, Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, whatever. I can send value. So that's money from me with Bitcoin. Also with Bitcoin is militant, right? So it has this strong military base, the strong military that's stronger than the U.S. military, stronger than China's military, stronger than any other military base. I found what was making my neck itchy. It was my wife's hair. So yeah, it has a strong military base, stronger than any military that you out there, stronger than any other cyber, stronger, cyber security type of, security. It's very strong. It's backed by cryptography. Cryptography is very strong. SHA-256. And so this is very strong. It makes sure that Bitcoin is secure. and it's secured by nodes. So, many people talk about other cryptocurrencies and how it's faster than Bitcoin, how it's just the best out there, right? But then you look at the bigger picture, right? And you only see that this crypto project, this Diddy project, is only backed by one company, right? It's backed by a company or a node, one node. Like the federal government. Federal government is the one node that's regulating everything, that's backing everything, right? And the fiat backs by its own self, by the federal government. It's not backed by gold anymore. They ended that in 1971. With President Nixon, and so it's not backed by anything. Bitcoin is backed by cryptography. It's backed by energy from the universe that God made, that the source energy made. So it's backed by energy source. You have to mine it. You have to use computational energy and power to make it known, and to make it available for each and every one of us within the whole globe. And so it's backed by that, and it's backed by people running this Bitcoin node. That each and every person, you just need a computer, right? You can use Start9, which I personally use for running Bitcoin. So you just download Bitcoin Core, and now everyone has a copy of the Bitcoin blockchain. And you can verify transactions. You can verify how strong this military of Bitcoin is, how strong it is. It's not one node. It's over 20,000 nodes across the globe. And so if anyone's trying to hack it, tries to break it down, Bitcoin down, the strong military of the 20,000 nodes says, nope. This is a bad transaction. This is a fraudulent Bitcoin transaction that you're trying to make. This is a fraudulent fork or whatever you're trying to do with Bitcoin. Bitcoin says no, because these nodes are strong, and it gets stronger. The hash rate gets stronger. The difficulty adjustment gets stronger. The Bitcoin military gets stronger, right? And then there's very smart people in Bitcoin. So quantum computing is going to come, right? And it's trying to break SHA 256, right? But there's smart people in here. They're going to make quantum resistant things, quantum resistance computers, to make Bitcoin even more secure, even more unhackable. And obviously too, if SHA 256 breaks, there's much more bigger problems in the world than Bitcoin going down. The fiat system is destroyed, the medical system is destroyed. So many things are going to be under attack if quantum computing breaks a lot of this, these narratives, right? And so I think Bitcoin is the strongest network in the world. It gets stronger as people, as more miners are mining Bitcoin, as both, public and pool mining together. I think Bitcoin gets stronger as more people are running nodes, which is very, very important as a Bitcoiner. Running nodes helps keep Bitcoin decentralized. So as long as you're running Bitcoin Core, as long as you're keeping the a copy of the blockchain, no government, no entity can stop 20,000. I want to get it to 50,000 computers or nodes worldwide, right? Everyone should be running the node. I think it's important to keep Bitcoin decentralized and secure. Those are the three most important factors, right? The security of Bitcoin, how it used as a money, how fast it is, store value, and the decentralizations. So you want it to be secure, you wanted Bitcoin to be decentralized, and you want to have Bitcoin be used as a money and or a store of value. And so when it makes all three of these things, Bitcoin becomes the best form of money, which is already the best form of money, but it becomes the best supernatural power that ever existed, next to the invention of the internet and computers, right? So this is Bitcoin money, this is Bitcoin military, and how strong this network is. And so I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and I'll be posting a link to Start 9, and you can run your node. Start running your node. Start you know, making sure Bitcoin stays as awesome as possible. And if you want to tip me as well, you can tip me below, because, you know, like I said, if you listen to this video, you will know that Bitcoin is money, and you can send me Bitcoin without permission. Peace.